It's now 6:30, and I would like to call to order the City of Kyle Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Scheibmeier, Snidow,
You're on mute.
McCall,
Here.
Christie,
Here.
Guerra,
Here.
Chase,
Here.
James.
Here.
Item number 3 is minutes. We have Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes for February 9th, 2021, regular meeting, February 24th, 2021 workshop meeting, March 9th, 2021 workshop meeting, and March 23rd, 2021 regular meeting. Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move we approve the minutes for February 9th, February 24th, March 9th, and March 23rd.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are accepted. Number 4, citizens' comments. If there is any members of the public who wish to provide a citizen comment on anything that is not on the agenda but pertinent to planning and zoning, this is your time for your 3 minutes to speak up. Is there anyone on the phone line, Deb?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Seeing no one, or hearing no one, I should say, I will close the citizen comments. Item number 5 is our consent agenda. We have A, B, C, and D. Can I have a motion? Oh, yes, Mr. Coombs.
I mean to interrupt, but I have a question. Who's on the line with the last 3 numbers of their phone number, 456?
Oh, I see that.
I didn't know if that's.
Nick Kell. I'm the applicant on item 6A, and I was told to call in on this line.
Oh, okay. No, excellent. I just saw what I would consider to be an anonymous phone number, so I didn't know.
Yes, it's Nicole Mead. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Okay, back to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve consent agenda items 5A, B, C, and D.
Okay, I have a motion. Can
Second.
I have a second? Did I get a second? I heard somebody.
Second.
Brandon.
Okay, I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have a consent agenda, Beth. Item number 6, we have a public hearing. We have 2 items for the public hearing. As it stands, it is only a public hearing. So I will open the public hearing on each item, but we will not have a discussion on it. That will come down the road when it's brought before us for discussion. This is purely for public input. Okay, everybody understand that? I don't want you to think I'm being like a chowderhead for not letting you speak. All right. Item 6A, public hearing. Let me read the item first. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Kyle, Texas will hold 2 public hearings for the purpose of receiving testimony, comments, and written evidence from the public regarding a comprehensive plan amendment to add manufactured home subdivision districts M2 and M3 to the new town community district in the comprehensive plan for a property located at 600 BB Road in the city of Kyle, Texas. Hadsell Estate Z21-0075. I will open the first of the 2 public hearings for this item 6A. Is there anyone from the public here who wishes to speak on this item?
Debbie, was there
I
got the-
have that. I have
Oh,
that,
okay,
Will.
cool.
I'm just
Awesome.
waiting to see if there's anybody here. Nobody, Deb, here now to speak on 6A? Okay. There is a comment that was emailed in from a Mr. Carl Daywood, and I will read exactly from his email. I am against this zoning change. I am spending a lot of money on a first-class commercial development. I know from my 47 years in real estate, this will bring down the neighborhood and the land values in the area, thus reducing the tax money coming into the city of Kyle. There are also other areas more appropriate for this kind of use. I am returning my objection form via email. He didn't have any access to a fax. That is it. So that's the only comment I have for this item. Okay, hearing no one who has called in, I will close the public hearing on this item. Item 6B, the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Kyle, Texas, will hold 2 public hearings for the purpose of receiving testimony, comments, and written evidence from the public regarding a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment to reclassify approximately 20 acres of land from farm district to regional node district, and the remaining 87 acres of land from farm district to the new settlement district for property located at the north corner of the intersection at SH 21 and East FM 150. FM 8112 LLC JD's Market. I'm going to open the public hearing for this item. Is there anyone on the phone who wishes to speak to this item? Deb, do we have anyone? No? Okay, I also have a form here. It is from a Mr. Adam Ahmad. He is speaking as a representative for JDS Supermarket. And the only thing he says here is he is for this change. Okay, hearing and seeing, I guess no one else, I will close this public hearing. Number 7, consider and possible action. 7A, consider a request by RRHPI LLC Z210077 for the purpose of amending PUD documentation related to approximately 107.247 acres of land to allow impervious surfaces calculations for 2 or more lots within the PUD that may be combined and considered as a whole, such that the impervious cover across the lots remains in accordance with the City of Kyle limits by district type for property located on Vista Ridge Drive and Gateway Boulevard in Hayes County, Texas. There is a public hearing for this item also. I will open the public hearing. I have to open it first. Is there anyone here, Deb, who wishes to speak on this item, 7A? No? We have nobody here? Okay.
Renee Duval with HBI is here in support of it, but no dissent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing. Mr. Atkinson.
All right. Let me pull up the staff report here. Will Atkinson for the record, city planner. Before you, we have the request Z-21-0077. they're looking at approximately amending the code for 38.2 acres within the 107 acre PUD to allow impervious cover averaging between 2 or more lots. Right here we have the vicinity map of the PUD. The yellow outline is the 107 acres. For our new members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, this is a zoning action. Typically you have in the state of Texas, you have straight zoning, which means that you say, hey, I want to build a convenience store. So you have to get a certain zoning, or I want to build a warehouse and you get a different zoning, or I want to build a house and you have a different zoning. With a PUD, it allows for a cohesive development with a little bit of flexibility built into the requirements for the zoning. So you can look at it from you can get some flexibility on setback, impervious cover, maybe a little bit different stuff on the landscaping, parking ratios, all these things that staff has to look at to be compliant whenever someone submits a development plan. And that's what we have here. We have the HPI PUD, or the Hayes Commerce Center, if you will, just north of Home Depot at Kyle Crossing. And there's currently there's 3 developed sites for sure that they're up and running. We got a FedEx facility, Alska, which does linen cleaning. We have another facility up here that does screen printing for Under Armour and what have you. But there's several additional sites in here that are yet to be undeveloped, but there's a lot of interest in the site. And so moving down, these are the actual lots affected within that 107 acres, all the blue hash marks. That's approximately 38.2. The original site was zoned on in August of 2011 with Ordinance 671. And they're looking to amend the code again within that PUD to help the project move along. Right here we have the comprehensive plan map, just something to be aware of. Typically when we have our staff reports, we expound a lot on the comprehensive plan as it's a foundation for our zoning code. The comprehensive plan tells you what zonings can be in certain parts of the city, different zoning districts. In this specific case for this project or this request, they already have their zoning in place. We are specifically looking at one way to address impervious cover within the zoning. So we really didn't talk about it at all because it doesn't really apply from this perspective. So one of the lots someone's extremely interested in, there's someone wanting to purchase it and develop a site. And as we were moving along in the process, they realized they were doing everything they could to get it to be code compliant. And everything else was pretty much code compliant, except they couldn't get the impervious cover down to 75% because it's a combination of either warehouse or construction manufacturing zoning from a use perspective, and have to be at 75% maximum. And the way our code reads, your impervious cover maximum is based on a per lot basis. However, as this is a PUD and a master development from a commercial standpoint, they're requesting to have a little bit of wiggle room so they can average 2 or more lots together to get the average from a 75% perspective, or 80% depending on which use it is. So it helps with that. It helps them move their plan along. And we don't really have any objection to it. This idea of averaging from 2 different lots from an impervious cover standpoint, it's actually something that we've heard of before. We know the city of Austin does it. Engineering, are the people that look at the impervious cover and make sure that the stormwater conveyance works well, they're absolutely fine with it. We just have to amend our code within this PUD to make it work. So we don't have any problem with it. We find it perfectly fine. We just need an approval in a public hearing setting to do so. And I included parts of the code where it talks about where they can get a little bit of flexibility from maximum lot coverage, which is the highlighted part there. Do y'all have any questions or any thoughts that y'all want to present?
A couple of questions.
Okay.
Sorry for being late, first of all, by the way. Are all the lots or the platted lots that are being considered owned and or controlled by the same person right now? Are we setting a future problem up here if we allow this to be bypassed or consolidated and then saddling, creating an albatross property there?
I can answer that, Will, if you want. They are all owned by HPI. All the remaining lots belong to us.
Okay,
And we're
so
going to put deed restrictions on each lot pending this PUD revision to indicate this change in the PUD.
Additionally, even though we don't specifically look at deed restrictions, even because that's a private sector deal, the civil engineer on each lot will take that into account whenever they do develop that. And so both the PUD or the owners of the PUD, HPI, and the civil engineer will understand that that's the idea, and will be allowed to do that and be able to design it appropriately.
what's the risk? Is there any risk to this with regard to maintaining impervious cover requirements down the road if we do this? Is there any risk to the city? Is there any risk to future landowners if ownership gets transferred?
No, because all these lots, from a stormwater conveyance standpoint, they all feed into regional detention ponds that are also within that subdivision. So internally, from that point, it's a wash from an impervious cover standpoint. It's just a function of being able to provide a little bit more flexibility in the development code.
And I assume the physics of it all work out, even though we're going to put it all, concentrate it all over here. It's still going to, everything's going to flow there, and we're not going to, oh, whoops, we had an imbalance here we didn't realize. That's all going to get worked out, I assume.
Yeah, because even the inlets for the streets that are inside the that PUD boundary, that subdivision, they go to the stormwater. They're to the detention ponds that are
okay.
So, all
right, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Atkinson? If there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question before we make a full motion, which is, do we
Go
have
for
to, when we make the motion to confirm the item, do we have to give a specific change, or do we just say motion to affirm item? Is there any sort of specific like 80 to 75% thing that we have to do to make a motion correctly?
You can make the motion saying that you want to approve the item as written. Am I correct on that, Howard?
Yeah, that's always an option to you, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Hello. Brandon, you
I
want to
guess
go?
I'll make the motion. I move to approve this as written. Item 7A.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, wait.
Sorry.
Stop. Alex, go ahead.
Okay, so this is our discussion time between the commissioners, and I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way, but I'm kind of on the fence. I'd like someone to try to walk me one way or the other if you guys, okay. Yes, Howard.
Couldn't get my mouse to the mute button. I mean, if you want me to explain it again, I will. If you've got more questions, just go ahead.
No, okay, just 1 second. So, I mean, what's happening here is what we're saying is it's okay. Like if I have a lot that is less than the maximum impervious cover, then it's okay for another lot to be well beyond the maximum. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't get to the absolute limit on one lot, I can surpass it on another.
Yes.
And that concerns me, especially because, as Paul was saying, the way it could be designed, the way it, this doesn't seem as cut and dry as maybe as we were. So this does concern me. I'm not sure if I'm just looking at it incorrectly, but I am a bit more concerned about this than I think.
It's a policy decision without question. I mean, don't gloss over it. It's not minor in that way. But what it is it's just the allocation of resources or the allocation of the built environment within the boundaries of the parent boundary, the overall site. So to an extent, this is a transfer of development rights just on a very, very micro scale, just inside the boundaries of their development site. If you back out a little bit and look at it from maybe a 10,000 foot view instead of a 1,000 foot view, the overall density for the parent boundary will not exceed what the city of Kyle would permit today for that property. So for the 107 acres or so, those 107 acres will not exceed the 80% ISR. This is that's the number. This is not necessarily unlike what you would get on a much smaller scale. I mean, you could use a single family residential lot as a example. If you were to take your average 8,000 square foot lot that somebody has their home placed on it and slice it into 4 pieces, 4 equal pieces, more than likely the backyard is going to have a much lower lot coverage ratio than the front yard might have, because backyard setbacks are usually larger. The front yard's going to have a driveway in it, probably a sidewalk. So really, it's just a question of your perspective when you look at the development as a whole. The further back you go, the more likelihood it is that you can attenuate for stormwater. That's what they're asking for here. The site has 2 means of being managed. The individual lots can be responsible for their own stormwater, or the entirety of the project can be responsible for everybody's stormwater. Some people call party ponds, or shared detention. There's a number of different terms for it. At the end of the day, what we want to see is that the science will make sure that the runoff, stormwater runoff from the parent site does not exceed the pre-development conditions. And it's our expectation through the science of the civil engineering, the stormwater engineering, the improvements made to the entire site will be such that no stormwater will get off the entire site at a rate that's faster than the pre-development condition. Right now, that's just measured individually, lot by lot, but the requirement is, it's right now it's tied into their development documents. It's tied into the City of Kyle's development ordinances. And there's also state and federal regulations on how fast stormwater can come out. So this is creative thinking, I'll call it, on the part of Kyle. It's new and probably more progressive to Kyle generally than some of the other places I've worked for. But as far as the transfer of development rights go, this is not necessarily new. It just frees up some ability for them to develop certain sites at a standard that's different from certain others. Patricia, you're on mute.
Patricia, go ahead.
I just wanted, I didn't know, I couldn't see how to raise my hand. So I do have a question. So in the event that this parcel was, right now it's owned by one owner, in the event that it was divided and parcels were paid off or sold off, are they required to disclose? Is it in the title work? Where would the new owner find that possibly they're carrying the burden of that for this property?
So this requirement, this becomes an ordinance, which means it becomes city law, and that runs with the land. Change of ownership does not change the metrics of the building standards, and it does not change any of the requirements being the maximums, the minimums, what have you. So this is the rule for any person that develops these properties.
And the deed would restrict the lot from being overdeveloped if part of the lot had been committed to averaging impervious coverage.
This information will be passed through on the plating documents. Is that correct?
It's a PUD revision.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah. Good, Howard.
I don't think it's necessarily going to be tied per plat. It would be noted on site plans. It would be noted on as-built. It would be noted again generally in the text of the ordinance itself. But as far as the plats go, you know, a plat that's not going to show improvements won't necessarily have any expectation of an impervious surface requirement. That's a development standard, not a platting standard.
will it show it's tied to a PUD, the plat? And then they can go research the PUD to figure out that there's an issue
Oh,
or
absolutely.
potential.
Our plats refer to the PUD.
Yeah, generally not, because it could happen someday in the future that the zoning changes, but that won't change the plat. So we usually don't put zoning related restrictions on plats because zoning changes and plats are more permanent.
Our plats do have notes about the PUD though, currently. I don't know, Howard, if
That's discretionary at the part of the owner, but I think from Paul's perspective, what the city's allowed to require, we don't necessarily require zoning information. We usually put red line comments to people that we don't want them to put things on their plat like setbacks or building heights, which a lot of people think is important, but and information like that is important as long as it's accurate. But occasionally we'll find plats that are really old that reference zoning standards that aren't in existence anymore.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So if somebody is buying a piece of property from this, within this PUD, that would be one that has given up some of its coverage for this, would it show up in the appraisal? Where would it show up for a new buyer? That's what I mean, just without them knowing to go look for it. Where would it show up for them?
In a zoning certification letter. I mean, during the course of your due diligence, if you contact the jurisdiction of record and you ask what are the entitlements and what are the restrictions, we would put together a letter that showed them the ordinances that were related to their property.
Okay, and is that pretty much standard practice when you buy a commercial property like this?
I haven't bought a lot of commercial properties before, but I've written a lot of zoning certification letters.
Okay, great, thanks. That's what I wanted to know. I just wanted to make sure there's full disclosure for a future owner. That's all I'm trying to be sure of.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I've got a question, which is there, like, has the zoning board done anything like this before, this specific action, or are we like making an action that is precedent in some
I
sort of
think
way?
we have. My understanding, and Will might correct me, the hospital. The hospital site, I believe, has some shared detention with some of the other properties that are over there, and it all drains to that very large not catch basin, I'd call it a pond, that's due north of the hospital, one of the low areas. And I think that catches some of the runoff from some of the properties that are over there east of 35, north and south of 1626. Those have shared detention. I don't know off the top of my head if I can think of anything else that was planned and built comprehensively that's got shared detention. Plum Creek, the individual parcels aren't required to have detention. That they have an overall detention plan for Plum Creek. Is it? Gosh, who was the owner when Kohl's and Target? Was it?
DDR.
Yeah, the DDR. Their pond is located west of, so behind the apartments on Marketplace, the Teeples apartments. There's a large pond behind that apartment complex, and that drains the properties, the Target, the Kohl's, the Chick-fil-A, the McDonald's, all that stuff over there drains to the west into that pond. So we have some other large scale projects where the economies of scale just make it such that it's worth it to put in storm detention that services all the lots globally rather than working on having them individually.
Does that answer your question, Brandon?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Anyone else? If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion which I have on the floor, and we have the second, and we had our discussion. So now we'll have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1. We have everybody. All these faces on the screen completely confuse me. All right. Item 8, general discussion. Discussion only regarding Planning and Zoning Commission request for future agenda items. Okay, guys, this is it. Speak up. Tell Howard and Will what you want to see on the agenda. You know the drill. Paul, you're smiling. What do you want to say?
I just wanted to be a smart aleck and say we ought to look at CBD 1, CBD 2 downtown, but I'm going to, never mind. I don't think I want to.
Okay, good. That might be a good move. All right, good. Anyone else have any other items? Smart alecky or not, we'll listen. Yes.
I have a question about like last time we talked about doing this virtually versus in person. And I was just curious if we had an update on what that looks like.
We're going to talk about that in the staff report under item 9.
Okay, we're going to talk about it, Brandon. Alex, go.
It was in the same thing. I'm going to wait for the staff report.
Same thing? Okay.
I think Patricia was trying to speak up.
Pat?
I was just asking, you said you know the drill, and I was saying, no, I don't.
This is just where you get to speak up if you have anything on your mind that you'd like to see on the future agendas. We tell Will and Howard, and they incorporate them into the next agendas.
These are things that have been circling around my head for a long time. I mean, you may have already looked at them for a long time, but I'm wondering if we've ever considered like a dark sky ordinance. I know we're too close to 35 to attain any kind of anything, but it definitely improves the look and feel of a community. And I'm just curious for new development, not putting it on existing, but with the development that's coming. I'm just curious if we've ever considered it.
We did. We considered it in 2016, I believe it was, is when we pushed through Chapter 54. Chapter 53 of the City Code is the zoning ordinance. Chapter 54 is lighting and landscaping, and I think maybe fencing might be in there too. And essentially, we started from a baseline of the dark sky model ordinance and made a couple of tweaks to that to be relevant to our local code. I'll save the commentary and just tell you that, yep, it's in there.
Okay. But it's optional and
No, ma'am. No, we have a lighting plan. We have photometric requirements for new commercial. It's not optional. It was it was met with differing levels of enthusiasm by various departments and department heads and different developers, and some of us love it, some of us have other feelings about it. So we'll have lunch sometime. I'll give you the lowdown.
Okay, sounds good. And I have one other thing. Zero entry on residential houses where there is not the little goofy little tripping hazards going into the driveway. I had to fight to get that going into my house as a new build. And the comment the builder made to me was, well, Austin makes us do it and the city of Kyle doesn't care.
It's not a fair characterization, I don't think. It's not our requirement, but we do not, our construction standards are not that granular right now. We recognize and enforce the International Code of 2015 for commercial buildings, residential buildings, all the trades. The only thing that's older than that is electric code, which is the 2014 NEC. We don't have local amendments that talk about barriers like that. That's something that we leave up to buyers and builders to work out on their own, rather than making it a specific mandate for all the homes. We do have requirements per federal and state law that model homes be accessible, that everybody can get access to at least certain areas of all model homes. But once you get into private property residential, we have few restrictions, and to an extent that's correct. The city of Austin does mandate accessibility in their homes. That's far above and beyond what the city of Kyle requires. I wouldn't say it's that we don't care. I would say that it's just more a function that if there's a market for it, then there's a private market for it. So let the private market work that out for themselves.
Yeah, I would say the private market doesn't know they have to fight for that. And I'm not saying that we need to take over everything, but I had a neighbor. I mean, all my neighbors are like, well, why didn't we get that? And I had a neighbor that actually tripped and fell over one of those rises. And so I'm
just a threshold, or I mean, are you talking about stairs that lead up?
Your driveway, you come into your driveway and there's that little goofy bump. And then as you drive into your garage, and then there's a tire stop forward. But if you actually, with new cars, if you actually got to that tire stop, your bumper would go through your wall in those garages.
Yeah.
Just because the way they've always done it, and it's old and it's outdated, and I just don't understand why they are like, I don't know. That's just a thing for me, and I'm just new, so I'm just saying. But I'm going to say most consumers don't know they can ask for it. 90% of them don't know they can ask for it. And for aging in place, it's critical. It is critical for aging in place. So, but that's just me.
Okay, anyone else? All right, that's it. Item number 9, staff report. Staff report by Howard J. Coons, Director of Planning and Community Development. Mr. Coons.
Yeah, I got a bunch of things. So to start off with, we do have 2 new members, if you haven't picked up on that already. Ace and Ms. Snidow. What I'd really like to do is get you both to give us your elevator talk, a little bit about yourselves, introduce yourselves to the other 5, just so we know who you are and what you're about and where you're from. Ladies first.
Okay, I'll go first. I am, as you heard in the council meeting, I am a fairly new resident to Kyle, and so I moved here in July of last year to be closer to kids and families. So I'm making this my home. It's nice because it's centrally located between my kids who are in Leander and Kate and all my family. So a lot of the things that attracted me to Kyle was the master plan of Plum Creek, and it was more than a master plan of housing and all of that, which a lot of master plans are. It was a master plan of warehousing and commercial development and manufacturing and light industry. And I thought this is truly visionary for a small community. So I decided to move here and live here. So my background is, I'm old, so I've done a lot of things, but I've been the executive director of a downtown development authority. I've put tax increment financing in place. I've done a character overlay on a downtown for historic preservation. I've worked for the Governor's Office of Economic Development in Colorado, worked with rural communities where I lived in Western Colorado to teach them how to attract businesses. And a lot of it was zoning and how to have a business site ready. The business can't come to your door if you don't have a place for them to be. And so I did a lot of that. So a lot of the things you do, you're kind of preaching to the choir, and I commend you on all the things you do, even though, Howard, I gave you a hard time on the 2 things that I wanted. So then for the last 15 years, I have worked for USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Division of Rural Development, working with rural communities. I have recently transitioned from working with rural communities across our 47 funding programs with infrastructure to working for our national office, which allowed me to move here. And I work on streamlining policy and procedure. And I'm really kind of gearing myself towards retirement, to be honest. And so, you know, this held a lot of interest for me to keep active and keep engaged. And I have remodeled a couple homes, and my father was a commercial realtor, so I was around that a lot. My former husband was a general contractor, so I guess I just kind of live and breathe construction and equipment and those kind of things. So this just seemed like something I would be interested in. I still have a lot to learn. I'll ask a lot of stupid questions, and you'll be saying, yeah, we did that before and it didn't work. But, you know, I'll still probably ask them. That's it.
I'll
Okay.
go ahead and jump in. Matthew Chase, I go by Matt. Moved to Kyle about 3 years ago from North Austin, which I moved to from California about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I have been in the community management industry for years, about 15 years. And a company called Brookfield Residential, which is one of the largest land developers. A couple of the projects out here are in East Austin, San Marcos, and actually our neighbor in Blanco Vista is Blanco Vista, which is just down the street here from Kyle. Brought me from California to manage a division within the company and bring community and all that to other new associations out here. And in that process, I learned everything I could about land development and worked very closely with our land development team and helped them push through a lot of really cool things and sat through a lot of commissioner courts, more so than planning commissions for the cities, or county, because they're in unincorporated areas. But yeah, I love the city. It's been great being here, and I just wanted to get involved in some way. So I saw the planning commission opening and said, yeah, let's go for it. That's it.
Well, great. It's good to know. I don't know if anybody, any of the five of you have any questions for them specifically. I can tell you, and Brandon is our second newest commissioner. We do have some information, and we'll probably help you with it. I think he still has the thumb drive. We might have to update some of it, but we have some digital information we can have you guys download. That's our codes, a little bit of training information, just some stuff like that. So you can sort of drink from the fire hose while you familiarize yourself with all of our codes and ordinances and restrictions and in-laws and outlaws and everything that goes along with that. And we'll try and get you that sooner than later. And look forward to getting some questions from you to me. I don't know if anybody has anything else before I move to the next thing.
Can I ask I know that a couple months ago, or actually not, it's only a couple months ago now, we had talked about there being a possible training in Austin about some planning and zoning stuff. I think that I and a couple others wanted to go to that. And I know that you had mentioned in an email back that the city could do a very similar thing. And I was curious, with as much of the commission being new, is there any way we could do something like that to make sure everyone's up for?
There was I don't remember who put it on, but I do remember that there was a new commissioner training or something to that effect for appointed and elected officials. And typically those happen twice a year, sometime right after the November elections and then sometimes right after the May elections. So we keep an eye out. We might find that comes up again, that we can get everybody to attend. Have to be a little bit quicker on the draw next time because I guess they fill up pretty quick or they don't have a lot of slots either way. But is it something that we could put together? Probably. I don't know how much time we have to dedicate to doing that, but I understand where you're coming from. And we've tried to do a little bit of that by basically putting together some of the reference materials that would go along with a talk like that, never actually having done the talk itself ourselves, because we've always had the opportunity to outsource that to one of the local law firms that sometimes put the set on, maybe TML, maybe the Texas chapter of the APA. There's some different groups that have a vested interest in that type of training. So I'll keep an eye out I usually try and pass those along when they get emailed to me as soon as I get them. So we'll look into it. So that being said, I'm gonna write this down before I forget. Tonight's agenda, the two items for the public hearing, we didn't have a lot of discussion. You didn't get a lot of input from staff, but I encourage you to go back and look at those items. There are staff reports that are in the agenda, and I would encourage you to read through those. That'll give you an excellent amount of background information so that you can have questions and discussions when this comes up again. I expect it'll be second Tuesday in May when this will come back again. Or did we put it on the 27th, Debbie? Okay.
Yes, so they'd be on the 27th.
So we're gonna have a combined meeting on Tuesday, the 27th then. So that's actually my next agenda item is what we're gonna talk about on the 27th. But we'll have two meetings on the night of the 27th back to back. The first one will be a voting meeting, and we'll go over the stuff that we talked about tonight. Well, the stuff that we listened to tonight related to those two public hearings. Then on the heels of that, we'll go into a work session agenda with a couple items that I want to play catch up with. So read those staff reports. If you have any questions, send them to me, send them to Will. But otherwise, save them if they're for the benefit of the group. Save your questions until this meeting on the night of the 27th, and we can ask them in the open session so everybody gets the answer at the same time. So that was my second item. Third item is next agenda. So next meeting will be Tuesday the 27th, 6:30, same place, same time. For right now, it'll be a virtual meeting because we have not made a different plan for that yet. The first part of the meeting will be a voting meeting, special called voting meeting, and we'll go over those. The next part will be a regular work session. Got two items right now for the work session. First of all, light poles. Oh, I got Will's attention. I want to be able to bring up some discussion on the planning side, not so much on the zoning side, although eventually it will become a zoning issue because it'll be a requirement. But we're talking about streetscapes in the city of Kyle. We have a host of new single-family detached developments that are happening all over Kyle, up to and including a large swath of land in Plum Creek. They are starting to put in their infrastructure. There have been discussions between Public Works Department, who's responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of a lot of infrastructure that's in our public rights of way, and the Planning Department, which deals with a lot of our design metrics that go along with zoning and development code, about standardizing some of our infrastructure, specifically light poles. The efficacy of doing so, and if we do so, what the standard will be. We're going to bring all those questions up to you. We're going to have some expectations or some examples, I should say, of some infrastructure that we would like to standardize. We're going to put that in front of you and get your best recommendation for what we should do moving forward. It's about the most I can tell you about it right now because that's about as far as I've been involved in the development. Will's worked on it a little bit more. He's worked on it with some folks over in Public Works. They got a little bit further to go with it before they can refine it into a staff report. But my plan is to have it 2 weeks from tonight. The other item is hopefully I can coalesce all the stuff from the future land use map that basically stopped in November. I got busy doing the other thing. I would like to pick that up again. With the summer coming on, maybe some folks will have more time to be able to participate in some type of public process for that. I'll try and first get the blessing from this group and then go to our communications department and see if I can get their help with getting the word out and getting some folks to come down and participate in that, whether it's virtual or in person. And then maybe move that along. Something that I would hope to have taken about 4 to 6 months is likely going to take 10 to 12 months, but that's life. So that's coming back next time. And then the last item I wanted to talk about would be for meetings, probably starting with the May meeting, which would be May the 11th, Tuesday night, May the 11th. We had touched on it last time. I don't know if you thought about it in the last month or so, but what is your tolerance or expectation for no longer having 100% virtual meetings that are done through this technological platform, and instead returning to the council chambers downstairs and having meetings in person, or potentially having an expectation of there being some type of hybrid where some folks can participate virtually and remotely, and other folks would be downstairs, just like basically following the model that the council has been doing recently. I have no opinion. I don't necessarily have any direction for you. This is a discussion item. It is not any type of possible action yet. This is just trying to take everybody's temperature to find out what the expectations should be.
Okay, who wants to go first?
Are we discussing now? Can we,
Yes.
I would like to keep the hybrid model open for a possibility.
Okay, we have one hybrid.
So that
Paul, I see
isn't
that
availability
hand.
to us right now because it's still been allowed through the governor's office. Historically, it's been my understanding that virtual meetings like this were not allowable pre-pandemic, and it's a special allocation that's been made by executive order from Governor Abbott's office, which have been continually renewed periodically to allow us to continue this. So if we continue the hybrid, we will do so as long as we are enabled to do so.
That was actually my question.
I don't know how many of you are subscribed to TML, the Texas Municipal League, but TML is prolific in their emails. I think they're up to number 180 or so since they started sending them out roughly last March. And they give updates on everything that relates to local government administration that comes from the state, and occasionally put together information from our peers just for the sake of sharing the information in case there's something that we find that we can use. Everything that I've read from them has stated that the allowances for the remote meetings has been extended, so that's why we continue them. But it's some folks' personal preferences that the council meetings be done in person and allow folks to attend downstairs in person. We have some council people that participate remotely. We have some council people that participate in person. It sounds like Megan's preference is to be able to participate remotely. Not that you asked, but I think it's really great that I can share my screen and I have two screens going, one with the meeting, one with backup information. The technology is really helpful. That doesn't mean we can't do that with everybody in the room downstairs. I can probably talk with IT and find out about what we can do with our presentation software that allows us to share that. But so far, I think it's been outstanding and has made me better able to disseminate information rather than just with words.
Anyone else have any ideas? I'm one for going in. I mean, I would come in if we had hybrid.
Yeah, I agree. I'd come in. I think the hybrid is still great, but yeah, I would come in.
I just want to be there for if we have a hot button or something that's going on. I know it sounds crazy, but I'd rather be in there and seeing the public than being on here trying to figure out if they're on a phone. Or I just prefer that.
I guess the question is, if we go to hybrid, do we lose the ability for people to call in? Like, if there is an in-person component,
No,
can people still call in?
They call in during city council meetings. They have call-ins and people come in.
If we went completely to in-person and we're no longer virtual or hybrid, we would lose the ability for people to call in. But as long as there's a technological outlet, then they can participate that way.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Alex, I think
Alex, I saw you getting ready to jump in.
Yeah, I don't see a drawback to going hybrid. I think it's better for our citizens. They can come in person. They can be online. Better for our commissioners. We have the options, especially for our not the regular meetings, but the workshops.
Workshops.
The workshops can have a lot of discussion, and it would be, it's just easier to do it when you're in person with some of the other commissioners. So I just have to ask, is there a reason we can't do it the second meeting this month? Because that would allow us to be in person if we choose for the workshop meeting this month.
We talked to my first SATS parliamentarian there. Debbie, did you advertise the meeting being all virtual, or is there an accommodation for them to be partially in person?
I think there's accommodation for partially in person. I'll have to read the wording and then get back to you, but
Yeah, that's, I
Maybe it was
want to say the
worded.
same thing to Alex. If we find out, we can't, then we won't. But if it's all right with this, the six of you, we may very well do that for the April 27th meeting.
I'm in on that.
Yep, that sounds
I'll
good.
probably be there.
I'm going to ask, do you have any information on our red building thing that I brought up?
Talk to Will about that.
Will?
All right, so we do have a draft. We need to, and I don't remember, Howard, do you want us to bring it forward at a workshop first before we notice it in the newspaper? All right, so we need
I just figured we'd bring it to the May voting meeting.
Cool.
When we brought this up last time, I want to say, today's the 13th. So when we brought it up at the end of March, I didn't think we had the time to advertise it for this meeting that we're at tonight.
Mhm.
I'd really rather it not be made to go forward at a special called meeting. I just wanted it to be on a regular agenda. And so the
Good.
ability of putting the ad in the paper and getting it in time, I think what I'd like to do is try and bring it to you at the regular May voting meeting, which would be, I think it's May the 11th at 6:30.
Cool.
It's still on
Thank you.
schedule, but we move at the speed of government. So that's the quickest we could get it to you.
Cool.
All right, so it looks like all things being equal, if we can do it, we will do it. We'll have the meeting on the 27th. We'll follow the council model, being a hybrid meeting. So you can attend from wherever you are right now or somewhere else, or you can come down to City Hall and join us from there. That meeting will be on April the 27th at 6:30. Not that you were worried about it, but I'm going to be out of the office May 5th, 6th, and 7th. But I'll be back for our meeting on the 11th, which is the regular May meeting. And that's all on my list. Anybody have any questions before I let you go?
Okay, item number 10, adjournment. Now, look at all those smiles. Okay, I need motion.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, man. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If you raise your hand up. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, meeting over. We're out. Thank you so much. Bye.